For my independent reading project, I read The Notebook by Nicholas Sparks. I used 3 boxes, one for the main character Noah, one for me, and one for the object we have in common. The boxes look like large hardcover books, but when you open them up, they're hollow inside. I chose to do this because Allie and Noah wrote down their story in a notebook. Then Noah used it to bring back Allie's memories after she was diagnosed with Alzheimer's. The book itself is actually the exact story they wrote down, minus the beginning and end. When you line up the spines of the book, they come together to make the word identity, with an image of a fingerprint above it. This represents that these are identity boxes. The colors of the covers also have meaning. Noah's is red because he is fiery, passionate, and emotional, and mine is yellow because I am calmer and more optimistic. The cover of the box we have in common is orange because when you mix red and yellow together, you get orange. The fonts on the boxes are symbolic too because Noah's name is in big block letters because he's bold, and mine is in cursive because I'm kind of artistic. And the font on the box we have in common is a combo of the two, which I did because it shows that the box includes an object that represents one of my characteristics that Noah also has. So here's a brief backstory so that these objects make sense for those of you who haven't read The Notebook. Okay, so Noah and Allie fell in love one summer, but then Allie had to move away and they lost touch, but they never really forgot each other. And then Allie got engaged to a man named Lon, who was a successful lawyer, but she didn't really love him. Then one day she discovered where Noah was, and she impulsively went to go visit him, and they fell back in love. But Allie was still engaged to Lon, so she had to decide between the two of them, and she ultimately chose Noah. Then she got Alzheimer's to where she couldn't even remember who Noah was. But first I'm going to talk about Noah's box. In his box is a cookie, a Lego plant, a pea, a mirror, and super glue. The main ones I'm going to talk about are the cookie, pea, and super glue. This is a toy chocolate chip cookie. This cookie represents Noah and Allie's choice between Noah and Lon, which was the main conflict in the book. So most people crave and enjoy cookies, and Noah was like a cookie because Allie wanted him and she loved him like nothing else. She knew Noah was her true love deep down, but she was afraid to commit because of how that would hurt other people in her life. Cookies have their downsides, like they aren't nutritious and they could cause unanticipated health problems. And like risky cookies, Noah was unpredictable, and unlike Lon, he couldn't provide a life with a safe and worry-free future. Noah was also like a cookie because when most people try to stop eating cookies, they don't eat one for a while, then once they finally taste it again, they give in and just embrace the cookie. They're happier and more satisfied because they no longer feel empty. Like in that situation, Allie tried not to think about Noah and succeeded for a little while, but as soon as they met again, Allie fell right back in love. When Allie gave in to her undying love for Noah, she became a happier person who was no longer restrained by the expectations and constraints of the world and society around her. Same metaphor, Lon was broccoli. Broccoli is healthy, but its taste is not necessarily desirable. Broccoli is widely considered a humdrum and boring food, but people still eat it because it gives them a feeling of security in that they have the knowledge that their bodies are safe from the dangers of unhealthy food. Lon was like broccoli because if Allie were to marry him, she would always know what to expect from her life. He was the man she was raised to marry, and he was perfect by her parents' standards, like how parents love to feed their kids broccoli. Their life would be mundane and boring with no surprises, but it was appealing because she would never have to worry or deal with the unexpected. Lon was a good and kind man, and Allie loved him, but it wasn't a passionate love like how most people tolerate broccoli, but they don't have a deep love or craving for it. Allie knew in her heart she really wanted Noah, but she tried to pretend like she didn't. So she filled her life with Lon and other meaningless things. She was like most people who want a cookie but try to refrain from eating it by filling up on healthy food. She had to choose between passion or protection. Allie's heart won and she married Noah. She risked the disadvantages that come with Noah. So in conclusion, she had to choose between Lon, the safe broccoli, or Noah, the desirable cookie. And she followed her heart and decided to choose Noah. The next object that represents Noah is a pea. So this specific one is a toy pea. If you push on the plastic outside, the peas easily slide out. Regular peas have a thick green exterior that seem like it would be a tough layer to get through. However, peas on the inside easily slide out with the gentlest of pressure. Noah's exterior was like the peas outside. He seemed like a rugged man with no feelings. He was an outdoorsman and seemed lonely to those who saw him. He liked to do things by himself independently and kept to himself for the most part. However, like the P, he opened up quickly and easily to people around him. In reality, he was an extremely emotional and philosophical person on the inside. This was shown in his love of poems and his adoration for nature and the simple things in life. He opened up to those around him fairly easily, like how he opened up to his neighbor Gus and shared a story with him. He discussed what's on his mind most of the time without thinking about how others judged him. He was soft and sensitive on the inside. The next object that represents Noah is superglue. As many of you know, superglue is an extremely strong adhesive. Once it touches something, it's basically stuck there forever. People try to break the glue's bond, but their efforts are usually fruitless. Noah was like superglue because he stuck to Allie from the minute they met. His love never faded for her even when they were separated. They did not see each other for years, and Noah tried to forget about her and move on after she left, but he never managed to do so. He saw images of her everywhere. He thought of her all the time. When they reunited later, his adoration for her was still just as strong as when they met. He loved her with everything in him. They eventually got married and they stayed together forever. Even when Allie developed Alzheimer's, Noah was patient with her and loved her just as much as when she was healthy. He stuck by her side just like superglue. Allie did not even remember who Noah was most of the time when he came and visited her, but he still spent every possible moment he could in her presence. Some superglue can wear off after severe strain if it is low quality, but Noah was no low quality superglue. He was the heavy duty type of stuff, and he never wavered in his love, even though their relationship went through tremendous struggles and hardships. The other two objects I chose to represent Noah were a mirror and plants, but I won't talk about those too much. The plants were just representative of Noah's love of nature, and the mirror was meant to represent that Noah was reflective. Alright, now I'm going to talk about the objects in my box. So on my box, I have water beads, a wind-up toy mouse, a stopwatch, a ruler, and a piece of scripture. So the first object I'm going to talk about in my box is the toy mouse. So mice are generally regarded as quiet and unnoticeable creatures. I'm like a mouse because I think of myself as a pretty quiet person, and I don't talk a whole lot in most of my classes. I tend to keep to myself. This particular mouse is a wind-up toy. When the knob on the side is turned and released, off the mouse goes. The wheels spin and the tail turns as it speeds down the surface that it is on. I identify with this toy because if I get wound up about something, I can talk about it for hours, and I can go on and on. I can get pretty worked up about things if I am close to it or passionate about it. Another thing about this toy is that it stays on the shelf for most of its life, which relates to me because I don't get upset very often, like how the toy doesn't get wound up very often. Water beads are tiny little colorful balls that expand rapidly when they come into contact with water. Water beads represent me because I expect big changes to occur rapidly in my life. For example, if I pick up a new hobby right from the start, I expect to be just as good as the professional examples I've seen. Over time, I have slowly learned that this is unrealistic because good things take time. I've begun to realize that you have to put in the hard work and set aside time in order for goals to be accomplished. However, most of the time I still expect dramatic improvements in my life. These water beads inflate quickly to show their vibrant colors, but they also shrink back to their dull-colored original state rapidly. This is like another one of my personal characteristics. Once I start a new hobby or discover something new, I get extremely into it and devote tons of time and effort to it. I go all out into whatever obsession it is that I have unearthed. However, I get tired of things extremely quickly. I can lose interest in no time. In the short time that I am immersed in that hobby, I commit to it so much that I burn out soon after I discover it. For example, when I get a new idea for lunch, I eat it every day, and before long, I'm sick of it and I can't eat it anymore. Another object that represents me is a stopwatch. As many of you know, a stopwatch is a device used to measure time. One big use of stopwatches is in sports, like in track to record running times. A stopwatch represents me because I am extremely competitive. I hate it when someone outdoes me. This really applies to pretty much every aspect of my life, in subjects from volleyball performance to someone baking a cake better than me. This characteristic can be a positive thing because it always pushes me to do the best I possibly can. But it can be a flaw at times because it can take over and I can get caught up in comparing myself to others. If I see someone who's better than me at any aspect, I become too concerned with working until I'm better than that person. And of course, no one is perfect, so there will always be people out there who can outdo me in some way. This habit of mine has been significant in my religion recently. It has actually strengthened my relationship with God in many ways because He knows my sins and the ways I fall short, but He still loves me. His grace and steadfast love remind me that I am His creation, created in the image of Jesus Christ. So it does not really matter if someone outdoes me in an earthly measure. The stopwatch represents time, and our time here on earth is short in the grand scheme of things. So a stopwatch is a reminder to me to live all out for Christ while I'm here on earth, to spread the good news to others so they can experience the joy found in Jesus Christ. Therefore, stopwatches represent my competitiveness, but it also represents my religion in many ways. The other two objects in my box that I chose to represent myself were a ruler and a piece of scripture with hand lettering on it. I chose a ruler because I like things to be organized and neat, and I chose the piece of scripture because of my religion and because I love hand lettering and that type of art. It's one of my favorite hobbies. And last but not least is the box that Noah and I have in common. So inside this box is an object that represents the both of us. And this object is a toy figurine of Mr. Incredible. The Incredibles were a superhero family with 3 kids, and everyone had powers. The dad is Mr. Incredible, who developed into an amazing father in the second Incredibles movie. He loved and cared for his children. He worked hard so that they could succeed. Noah and I also have an extremely strong relationship with our fathers. Noah loved his father and thought of him all the time, even after he died. He was a huge role model for Noah and helped guide him through life, just like how Mr. Incredible was a mentor to his children. I also have a close relationship with my father. He is an amazing man who works hard to provide for my brothers, my mom, and me. He is one of the most selfless people I know. He is always willing to drop everything he's doing to help me, anyone in my family, or really just anyone in general. Even if he has something important to do with work or something like that, he takes the time to go help me with volleyball in the backyard or give me homework help. He's like Mr. Incredible to me because even if he doesn't understand the topic I'm struggling with, he'll work tirelessly until he can help me as best as possible and provide me with the assistance I need. He usually takes me to volleyball practice in OKC, so I get to spend a lot of time with him in the car. He gives me lots of pep talks and motivational speeches. Through his actions and his words, he has shown me how to never give up and the importance of effort. He has tried to help me with my time management, but that's still work in progress. He keeps me accountable, which is something I definitely need. I wouldn't be the same person without him. While Mr. Incredible is a pretty good representation for this situation, he doesn't really hold a candle to my dad. I wouldn't want to trade my dad for anyone in the world, even Mr. Incredible. Thank you so much for watching.